Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to learn the full biography of Charles Darwin. This is not only the story of a scientist. This is the story of a curious boy who kept asking questions. A boy who looked at nature and wondered, why are animals different? Why do plants grow in different ways? Why does life change? Why does the world look the way it looks? Charles Darwin became one of the most important thinkers in history because he did something many people are afraid to do. He questioned, he observed, he studied, he waited, he collected proof, and then he shared an idea that changed the way people understood life on Earth. If you listen till the end, you will learn about his childhood, his journey on the HMS Beagle, his powerful observations, his theory of evolution, his famous book, and the struggles he faced before the world accepted his ideas. You will also learn an important life lesson. Great ideas do not come from quick answers. Great ideas come from curiosity, patience, courage, and deep thinking. And while you listen, also improve your English. Listen carefully. Repeat useful sentences. Write new words. Try to explain this story in your own English after the video. This video will help you learn history, science, vocabulary, and storytelling English together. If you want more easy English biographies, powerful stories, and learning lessons, subscribe to this channel. Chapter 1. The Curious Boy Who Loved Nature. Charles Robert Darwin was born on February 12, 1809, in Shrewsbury, England. He was born into a rich and respected family. His father, Robert Darwin, was a successful doctor. His mother, Susanna Darwin, came from the famous Wedgwood family. The Wedgwood family was known for pottery and business. So Charles grew up in a comfortable home. He had food, he had education, he had family support. But even with all these things, his life was not always easy. When Charles was only 8 years old, his mother died. This was a painful moment in his childhood. A child may not fully understand death, but a child can feel emptiness. The home changes. The heart changes. The world feels different. After his mother's death, Charles continued growing up with his father and siblings. From a young age, he was not like every other child. He was deeply curious. He loved nature. He loved walking outside. He loved looking at birds, insects, plants, stones, and shells. He collected things. He observed small details. He wanted to understand the natural world. Many people saw insects as ordinary. Charles looked at them with wonder. Many people saw stones as useless. Charles saw them as clues. Many people walk through nature without thinking. Charles walked through nature with questions. This curiosity became the foundation of his life. But in school, Charles was not seen as a great student. He did not enjoy the traditional style of education very much. He was not interested in memorizing lessons only for exams. His mind wanted real things, nature, animals, science, experiments, observation, discovery. This teaches us something important. Sometimes, a child may not look extraordinary in school, but inside that child, there may be a powerful future. Not every genius looks like a genius in the beginning. Charles Darwin's father wanted him to become a doctor. So, when Charles was a young man, he went to the University of Edinburgh to study medicine. But medicine was not right for him. He did not like the medical training. At that time, surgery was very painful because modern anesthesia was not commonly used. Charles saw medical operations and he felt disturbed. He could not imagine himself living as a doctor. So he slowly moved away from medicine. His father became disappointed. His father thought Charles was wasting time. He worried about his son's future. Many young people feel this pressure. Family expects one path, but the heart wants another path. Charles did not yet know exactly what he would become, but he knew that medicine was not his calling. After leaving medicine, Charles went to Cambridge University. His father hoped he might become a clergyman, a religious leader. At that time, this was seen as a respectable career. But Cambridge gave Charles something more important than a career plan. It gave him a connection with people who loved science. One of the most important people in Charles Darwin's early life was John Stevens Henslow. Henslow was a professor of botany. Botany is the study of plants. He became Darwin's teacher, guide, and mentor. Henslow saw that Darwin had a strong interest in nature. He encouraged him. He helped him learn. He helped him grow as an observer. This is very important. Sometimes one good teacher can change the direction of a student's life. A teacher may see something in you before you see it in yourself. Henslow became that kind of teacher for Darwin. During his time at Cambridge, Darwin also became interested in geology. Geology is the study of the earth, rocks, land, and how the earth changes over time. This subject helped Darwin understand that the world was not fixed. Mountains, rivers, islands, and rocks had long histories. The earth had changed slowly over a very long time. This idea would later become very important in his thinking. At this stage, Darwin was still not the famous scientist we know today. He was young. He was learning. He was searching. He was curious, but not yet clear about his future. Then one opportunity changed everything. In 1831, Charles Darwin received an invitation that would transform his life. He was invited to join a ship called the HMS Beagle. The Beagle was going on a long voyage around the world. The captain of the ship was Robert Fitzroy. The ship's work was to study coastlines, make maps, and collect information. Darwin was invited to join as a naturalist. A naturalist is a person who studies plants, animals, rocks, and nature. This was not an ordinary trip. This was a journey into the unknown. For a young man who loved nature, it was a dream. But Darwin's father did not like the idea at first. He thought the journey was risky. He thought it would waste time. He did not believe it was useful for Darwin's future. But Darwin wanted to go. He felt that this journey could open the world for him. With the help and support of his relatives, his father finally allowed him to join. And on December 27th, 1831, the HMS Beagle sailed from England. Charles Darwin was only 22 years old. He did not know that this journey would change his life. He did not know that the things he would see would change science. He did not know that his observations would lead to one of the most powerful ideas in history. He was simply a young man with curiosity, a young man with notebooks, a young man ready to observe the world. On the ship, life was not easy. Darwin often felt seasick. The journey was uncomfortable. The ship was small. The ocean was rough. The days were long. But Darwin did not give up. Whenever the ship reached land, he explored. He collected plants. He studied animals. He looked at fossils. He wrote notes. He observed rocks. He compared different places. He asked questions again and again. Why are these animals different from animals in England? Why do some animals live only in certain places? Why do fossils look similar to living animals but not exactly the same? Why does nature show both similarity and difference? These questions stayed in his mind. Darwin was not rushing to answer everything. He was collecting evidence. He was learning from nature. He was allowing the world to teach him. This is one of the most powerful lessons from his life. Do not be in a hurry to look smart. Be patient enough to learn deeply. Darwin's greatness did not come from speaking quickly. It came from observing carefully. It came from writing notes. It came from comparing details. It came from asking better questions. The young boy who once collected insects was now collecting ideas from the whole world. His curiosity had become his compass. His notebook had become his treasure. His journey had just begun. And the most important discoveries were still waiting for him. Because soon, Charles Darwin would reach places that would change the way he understood life forever. He would see strange animals. He would study fossils. He would visit islands. He would observe differences in birds, plants, and living creatures. And slowly, a powerful idea would begin to form in his mind. An idea that life on Earth was not fixed. An idea that living things could change over time. An idea that would one day become known as evolution by natural selection. But before the world could hear that idea, Darwin had to travel, observe, think, struggle, and prepare. Chapter 2. The Voyage That Changed His Mind. The HMS Beagle did not take Charles Darwin on a simple journey. It took him into a new world. It took him away from the comfortable life he knew in England. It took him across oceans, coastlines, forests, mountains, islands, and deserts. For almost 5 years, Darwin traveled with the ship. This journey became one of the most important scientific journeys in history. But at the beginning, Darwin was not thinking about becoming famous. He was not thinking about changing the world. He was simply observing. He was watching nature carefully. He was writing notes. He was collecting samples. He was asking questions. That was his real power. The ship traveled to many places, especially around South America. When the ship reached land, Darwin often left the ship and explored. He walked through forests. He climbed hills. He studied rocks. He watched animals. He collected plants. He looked at fossils. He wrote down everything he saw. He was not lazy with his curiosity. He did not only look at nature and say, "This is beautiful." He asked, "Why is this here? Why does this animal look this way? Why are these rocks shaped like this? Why do fossils look similar to animals that are alive today?" These questions were slowly changing his thinking. One of the most powerful experiences happened when Darwin found fossils in South America. Fossils are the remains or marks of living things from the past. Darwin found fossils of large animals that no longer existed. Some of them looked similar to animals that were still living in the same area. This made him think deeply. Why did old animals disappear? Why did some living animals look similar to extinct animals? Was there a connection between the past and the present? At that time, many people believed that species were fixed. They believed that animals and plants had always been the same. But Darwin was seeing clues that made him question this idea. Nature was showing him something different. It looked like life had a history. It looked like living things were connected to the past. It looked like the world had changed slowly over time. Darwin also studied geology during the voyage. He saw earthquakes. He saw mountains. He saw rocks that had been lifted from the sea. These things helped him understand that the earth itself was not still. The earth was changing. Slowly. Powerfully. Over a very long time. This idea was important because if the Earth could change over time, maybe life could also change over time. Darwin's mind was becoming more open. He was not accepting everything only because people had believed it for a long time. He was letting evidence guide him. This is a powerful lesson for all of us. Do not believe something only because everyone repeats it. Observe, think, learn, ask questions, look for truth. During the voyage, Darwin visited many places. But one place became especially important in his story: the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands are a group of islands in the Pacific Ocean. When Darwin arrived there in 1835, he saw animals that were unusual and interesting. He saw giant tortoises. He saw different birds. He saw plants and animals that seemed connected to South America, but also different in their own way. The islands were not very far from each other. But Darwin noticed that living things on different islands were not always exactly the same. This was very interesting. For example, the giant tortoises had different shell shapes. Some tortoises had shells shaped in a way that helped them reach higher plants. Other tortoises had different shell shapes because their environment was different. Darwin also collected birds. Later, experts studied these birds and helped identify important differences. Some birds had different beak shapes. Some beaks were better for eating seeds. Some were better for eating insects. Some were better for different kinds of food. Darwin began to understand something very important. Animals seemed to fit their environment. Their bodies seemed connected to the places where they lived. This idea did not become complete in his mind immediately. Darwin did not step off the islands and suddenly say, "I have solved evolution." No, real thinking takes time. Great ideas often grow slowly. Darwin collected evidence first. He wrote notes. He carried questions with him. Later, after studying his collections and thinking deeply, the idea became clearer. This is important because many people think discovery happens in one sudden moment. But often discovery happens slowly. One observation, then another. One question, then another. One connection, then another. That is how Darwin's mind worked. He did not force an answer too quickly. He allowed the evidence to build. The voyage was also difficult for Darwin. He often suffered from seasickness. The ocean made him physically uncomfortable. Life on the ship was not easy. The space was small. The journey was long. The weather could be dangerous. But Darwin continued. He did not allow discomfort to stop his mission. Whenever he got a chance to explore land, he worked with energy. He filled notebooks. He collected specimens. He sent samples back to England. He became more serious as a naturalist. Slowly, people began to respect his work. He was no longer just a young man who liked collecting insects. He was becoming a careful scientist. A scientist with patience. A scientist with discipline. A scientist who understood that nature speaks quietly, and only careful minds can hear it. In 1836, after almost 5 years, the HMS Beagle returned to England. Darwin was not the same person who had left. When he started the journey, he was a curious young man. When he returned, he carried years of observations, notebooks, specimens, and questions. He had seen the world. He had seen living things in different environments. He had seen fossils. He had seen islands. He had seen how nature could be both beautiful and mysterious. England had sent out a young naturalist. The world sent back a thinker. But Darwin still did not rush to announce a big theory. He knew that a powerful idea needed strong proof. He knew that people would not accept such a new idea easily. He knew that if he said species changed over time, many people would be shocked. Chapter 3. The Idea That Changed the World. After returning to England in 1836, Charles Darwin began a new kind of journey. This time, he was not traveling across oceans. He was traveling inside his own mind. He had notebooks full of observations. He had fossils. He had animal specimens. He had plants. He had questions. But he still needed to understand what all these clues meant. Darwin did not want to be careless. He did not want to make a big claim without evidence. He knew his idea could be dangerous for his time. Many people believed that every species was created separately and stayed the same forever. But Darwin's observations suggested something different. They suggested that species could change. They suggested that living things were connected. They suggested that life had developed over time. This was not a small idea. This was a world-changing idea. Darwin started writing private notebooks about the possibility that species changed over time. He studied animals. He studied plants. He studied breeding. He studied how humans changed animals by selecting certain traits. For example, people could breed dogs, pigeons, horses, and farm animals. If humans wanted a certain quality, they selected animals with that quality. Over many generations, the animals changed. Darwin thought deeply about this. If humans could shape animals through selection, could nature also shape living things? This question became very important. Darwin slowly developed the idea of natural selection. Natural selection means that living things with useful traits have a better chance of surviving and having offspring. Their useful traits can then pass to the next generation. Over a long time, this can change a species. Let us understand it in a simple way. Imagine a group of birds. Some birds have strong beaks. Some birds have weak beaks. If the food in their environment is hard seeds, birds with stronger beaks may survive better. They can eat more. They can live longer. They can have more babies. Their babies may also have stronger beaks. After many generations, more birds in that place may have strong beaks. This is natural selection. Nature is not choosing like a person. Nature is testing. The environment creates pressure. The living things that fit the environment better have a better chance to survive. Darwin began to understand that small differences could become important. A slightly better beak, a slightly better color, a slightly better size, a slightly better ability to survive cold, heat, hunger, or danger. These small differences could decide life or death. Over a very long time, these small differences could create big changes. This idea was powerful. It explained how life could change without needing sudden magic. It explained how living things could become suited to their environment. It explained why animals on islands could be similar to animals on the mainland, but still different. It explained why fossils could look connected to living animals. Darwin's idea was becoming clearer, but he still did not publish it quickly. He was careful. He was patient. He was also worried. He knew many people would disagree. He knew the idea could create religious and social arguments. He did not want to create unnecessary trouble. He wanted to be sure. So he worked quietly for years. In 1839, Darwin married Emma Wedgwood. Emma was his cousin and came from the Wedgwood family. She was intelligent, kind, and supportive. Darwin and Emma built a family life together. They later lived at Down House in Kent, England. Down House became Darwin's home, workplace, and thinking place. There he studied, wrote, observed plants, watched animals, and worked on his ideas. Darwin had children, and he loved his family deeply. But his life was not perfect. He often suffered from poor health. He had stomach problems. He felt tired. He had headaches and other symptoms. His health problems continued for much of his adult life. Sometimes, he could not work as much as he wanted. But he did not stop. He worked slowly. He worked carefully. He worked with patience. This is a powerful lesson. You do not need perfect health, perfect energy, or perfect conditions to create something meaningful. You need consistency. You need patience. You need purpose. Darwin also spent many years studying barnacles. Barnacles are small sea creatures. Many people may think this sounds boring. But for Darwin, this work was important. It helped him understand variation, classification, and details in living things. It also made him a stronger scientist. He was not only dreaming about a big theory, he was doing serious scientific work. He was building respect. He was training his mind. For many years, Darwin kept collecting evidence for his theory. He studied pigeons. He studied plants. He studied animals. He read books. He wrote letters to other scientists. He asked questions. He compared information. He strengthened his argument. Then, in 1858, something unexpected happened. Another naturalist, Alfred Russel Wallace, sent Darwin a paper. Wallace had also developed a similar idea about natural selection. Darwin was shocked. For many years, Darwin had been working quietly on the same idea. Now Wallace had reached a similar conclusion independently. This created pressure. Darwin's friends encouraged him to present his work. So in 1858, Darwin and Wallace's ideas were presented together to the Linnean Society in London. This was a major moment in science. But Darwin still needed to write his book. The next year, in 1859, Charles Darwin published his most famous book, On the Origin of Species. This book changed history. In this book, Darwin explained that species change over time. He explained natural selection. He explained that living things are connected through common ancestry. He used evidence from nature, fossils, geography, breeding, and observation. The book was powerful because Darwin did not simply give an opinion. He gave evidence. He gave examples. He gave reasoning. He showed years of patient study. The book created strong reactions. Some people were amazed. Some people were angry. Some people were confused. Some people supported him. Some people attacked him. His idea challenged old beliefs. It changed how people understood life. It changed biology forever. But Darwin did not become loud or arrogant. He continued working. He continued writing. He continued studying. He was not a person who wanted attention for nothing. He wanted truth. He wanted understanding. He wanted to explain the natural world. The publication of On the Origin of Species made Darwin famous, but fame also brought pressure. People debated his ideas publicly. Scientists discussed them. Religious leaders questioned them. Writers wrote about them. The world slowly began to change its understanding of nature. Darwin's courage was not the courage of a soldier in battle. His courage was different. It was the courage to think deeply, the courage to question old ideas, the courage to wait until he had evidence, the courage to publish something that many people might reject. This is why Darwin's story is powerful. Chapter 4. The Legacy of a Quiet Man Who Changed Science. After the publication of On the Origin of Species in 1859, Charles Darwin's life changed forever. Before the book, Darwin was already respected by many scientists. But after the book, his name became known across the world. People talked about him. Scientists discussed him. Religious leaders questioned him. Newspapers wrote about him. Some people supported him. Some people strongly disagreed with him. Darwin had opened a door that could not be closed again. He had given the world a new way to understand life. He had said that living things were not fixed forever. They changed over long periods of time. They adapted. They survived. They developed. They were connected. This idea was powerful because it changed biology completely. Before Darwin, many people looked at each animal or plant as something separate. After Darwin, people began to see life as a great connected story. A story of change. A story of survival. A story of adaptation. A story that reached back millions of years. Darwin's theory did not answer every question immediately. Science still had more to discover. Genetics was not fully understood during Darwin's time. DNA had not been discovered. Modern biology had not yet developed. But Darwin had built the foundation. He had given science a powerful explanation. He had shown that nature could shape life through natural selection. This became one of the most important ideas in scientific history. But Darwin himself was not a loud man. He was not someone who enjoyed public fights. He did not travel everywhere to defend himself. He was quiet. He was careful. He often stayed at his home, down house. He worked from there. He wrote letters. He studied plants. He studied animals. He answered questions. He continued thinking. Many people imagine a world-changing person as someone very loud and strong in public. But Darwin's strength was different. His strength was patience. His strength was observation. His strength was deep thinking. His strength was honesty with evidence. He did not need to shout to change the world. His ideas spoke loudly. On the origin of species, Darwin continued writing important books. In 1871, he published The Descent of Man. In this book, Darwin discussed human evolution. This was even more sensitive than his earlier work. Many people were already uncomfortable with the idea that animals and plants changed over time. But now Darwin was saying that human beings were also part of the same natural process. He explained that humans shared ancestry with other living creatures. This idea shocked many people. It challenged how people saw themselves. For centuries, many people believed humans were completely separate from the rest of nature. Darwin's work suggested that humans were connected to nature, not outside of it. This was a difficult idea for many people to accept, but it also became important for science. Darwin also wrote about sexual selection. Sexual selection means that some traits develop because they help animals attract mates. For example, the beautiful feathers of a peacock can help it attract a mate. The song of a bird can help it be noticed. The strength of an animal can help it compete. Darwin understood that survival was not the only force in nature. Reproduction also mattered. Living things did not only need to survive. They also needed to pass their traits to the next generation. This showed how deeply Darwin thought about life. He did not stop with one idea. He kept studying. He kept asking questions. He kept adding detail. He kept improving his understanding. Darwin also studied plants with great interest. Some people think Darwin only studied animals, but this is not true. He loved plants too. He studied climbing plants. He studied orchids. He studied insect-eating plants. He studied how plants move, grow, and adapt. This shows us something beautiful about Darwin. Even after becoming famous, He stayed curious about small things. He could look at a plant and see a mystery. He could look at a worm and see a scientific question. He could look at a flower and see a hidden design shaped by nature. He did not lose the curiosity of his childhood. The boy who collected insects became the man who studied life with wonder. One of his later books was about earthworms. Many people may laugh and ask, why would a great scientist study worms? But Darwin understood that small creatures can do great work. Earthworms change soil. They help create fertile land. They affect the natural world quietly. Darwin showed that even simple creatures have importance. This was one of his greatest qualities. He did not ignore small things. He knew that small details could reveal big truths. This is a powerful life lesson. Do not ignore small things. Small habits change life. Small observations create knowledge. Small practice improves English. Small steps build confidence. Small details can lead to big discoveries. Darwin's personal life also had deep emotions. He loved his family. He and his wife Emma had many children. Darwin was a caring father. He spent time with his children. He watched them carefully. He was interested in how they grew, learned, and expressed emotions. But his family life also had sadness. One of the most painful moments in Darwin's life was the death of his daughter Annie in 1851. She was only 10 years old. Darwin loved her deeply. Her death broke his heart. This loss affected him emotionally and spiritually. It made him think deeply about suffering, life, and belief. Behind the famous scientist, there is also a father who felt pain. This is important to remember. Great people are not free from suffering. They also lose people. They also feel fear. They also feel sadness. They also struggle with questions. But sometimes, they continue working through pain. Darwin's health was also a constant problem. For much of his adult life, he suffered from illness. He had stomach problems. He felt weak. He had headaches. He became tired easily. Some days were very difficult for him, but he continued working in the way he could. He did not always work fast. He worked patiently. He used his energy carefully. He organized his day. He studied. He wrote. He rested. Then he returned to work. This teaches us a powerful lesson. You do not need perfect conditions to do meaningful work. You need patience. You need purpose. You need consistency. Even if your progress is slow, you can still create something important. Darwin's life was not about speed. It was about depth. He did not rush his theory. He did not rush his research. He did not rush his writing. He built his ideas slowly, carefully, and honestly. That is why his work became so strong. As time passed, more scientists began to accept Darwin's ideas. Not everyone accepted everything immediately. Science takes time. New ideas are tested, questioned, debated, improved. But Darwin's theory became stronger as more evidence appeared. Later discoveries in genetics, fossils, DNA, and biology supported and expanded the idea of evolution. Darwin did not know everything that modern science knows today, but he had seen something true and powerful. He had seen that life changes. He had seen that nature selects. He had seen that living things are connected. His work became a foundation for modern biology. Today, when students study biology, they still learn about Darwin. They learn about evolution. They learn about natural selection. They learn about adaptation. They learn how living things change over time. This shows how powerful one curious mind can be. Darwin's influence did not stay only in science. His ideas affected philosophy, religion, education, and the way people thought about human life. Some people used his ideas correctly. Some people misunderstood them. Some people misused them. This is why it is important to understand Darwin carefully. Darwin's theory was a scientific explanation of how living things change over time. It was not a simple message about being strong or weak in daily life. It was not a reason to treat people badly. It was not an excuse for cruelty. It was a scientific idea about nature, evidence, and life's history. Understanding this clearly is important. Darwin changed the world not because he wanted to destroy belief, but because he wanted to understand nature. He followed evidence. He followed observation. He followed questions. He followed truth as he understood it. That is the responsibility of a scientist. Charles Darwin died on April 19, 1882. He was 73 years old. By that time, he had become one of the most important scientists in history. He was buried in Westminster Abbey in London, near other great figures of British history and science. This was a great honor. The quiet boy from Shrewsbury had become a man whose ideas changed the world. His life had begun with curiosity. It grew through observation. It became stronger through travel. It became powerful through patience. And it became unforgettable through courage. Darwin's story is not only about science, it is also about how a person finds their path. He did not follow the path his father first planned for him. He did not become a doctor. He did not become a traditional clergyman. He followed his curiosity. He followed nature. He followed questions, and that changed everything. His life teaches us many powerful lessons. Be curious. Ask questions. Observe carefully. Do not rush to conclusions. Collect evidence. Think deeply. Be patient with your growth. Do not be afraid of difficult ideas. Do not stop because people disagree. Do not ignore small details. Do not waste your natural interest. Your curiosity may look small today, but it can become your future strength. Darwin also teaches us that learning is not only found in classrooms. He learned from books, but he also learned from nature. He learned from travel. He learned from animals. He learned from plants. He learned from fossils. He learned from rocks. He learned from the world itself. This is a beautiful lesson for English learners too. Do not learn only from books. Listen to stories. Read biographies. Repeat useful sentences. Explain ideas in your own words. Use English to learn about the world. When you learn English through powerful stories like Darwin's life, you are not only improving language, you are also improving your mind. You are learning history. You are learning science. You are learning patience. You are learning how great ideas are built. So remember Charles Darwin as more than a scientist. Remember him as a patient observer, a quiet thinker, a brave questioner, a man who looked at nature and saw a hidden story, a man who waited for evidence before speaking, a man whose notebooks became a revolution, a man who showed that life on Earth has a deep and connected history. Charles Darwin's legacy is still alive because his idea changed how we understand life. He showed that nature is not still. Life moves. Life changes. Life adapts. Life continues. And maybe the biggest lesson from Darwin's life is this: if you stay curious, if you observe deeply, if you keep learning, and if you have the courage to follow truth, your ideas can go farther than you ever imagined.